Yeah.
All right. We're here today to talk about the circular economy, and I'm here with, of course, Rakesh Bandipelli, my good friend. And Rakesh, you've been reading a book. You recommended a book, and we've both been reading it. Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so I think I've spoke enough to you around circular economy and my passion about all things recycling. That's how it started, sustainability, and then I started to. It's a rabbit hole. It's a positive because I started really learning a lot more. And for whatever reason, I've done diploma in sustainability back in 2013 without really understanding what I was studying. But I think the universe sort of connects itself. And there are certain things you do in life which are destined. And then sometimes you either look back or you look forward to connect the dots. And that sort of drove me into supply chain and me studying sustainability and then really finding a lot of passion and about the topic. And circular economy, sustainability, I call it two sides of the same coin. There is the socio-economic factors, and obviously there is climate side of things as well. So I don't want to mix it up together. And I'm very clear of talking circular economy because sustainability comes with people, planet, and profit. So to run a business, we need to sustain these three. And the other side of this coin is circular economy and the climate side of things.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say I'm not going to make this easy for you, Rakesh. I'm gonna sometimes challenge you on some of the concepts.
Yeah.
And not that I disagree with you or I'm actually completely on board with sustainability, but there's always the other argument, and I think it'd be like remiss not to at least explore some of those arguments, and we can talk about that.
And I had
still be friends afterwards, right?
Yes, we will be. And I already had a lot of arguments about this to a few people.
Yeah.
And it's a revolution from a mindset perspective.
Yep.
But it's an evolution from a human perspective.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we are just evolving as humans, and then nature will take its own course of action, and we're just evolving by nature. And the book obviously is part of me listening to World Economic Forum Circular Economy podcast, and obviously I listen to almost every single episode that comes through. And then I came across this book, which was referred in that podcast.
Okay.
And this is the book. And I was like, wow. Yep. And there are some really interesting quotes that came out of this book. And I was like, oh my God, that is so true. And I was like, I need to get this book. And then hence I downloaded that onto a Kindle, and then hence I started reading, and I obviously recommend it.
Very sustainable too, mate.
Yes.
Downloading it on Kindle. Well done.
Yes.
And yes, certainly you got a copy, and I found it amazing, mate. This is the nuts and bolts of what it takes to get the world in a circular economy. And it's actually an amazing book. If anyone is right into sustainability, understands the importance, this is a book for you. If you don't know much about sustainability and want to understand what how the world needs to change, the challenges, this is the book for you too. It's I'd say don't be put off by the title, The Circular Economy, a User's Guide. It sounds like you're not going to enjoy this book, but it is amazing. So personally, I can't recommend it enough. I loved it.
Yeah, and don't be put off by the price either. It's not the New York best-selling book, or it's not the best #1. I don't know. Yeah. See, I'm always taken away with this message. Every book has the best-selling New York whatever, and it's like, how can be so many best-selling books? And this is definitely not one of them. It doesn't have ratings and reviews in 5 digits. Yes. Either. and it's a bit of a dry topic in terms of really reading through, but unless you really understand where we're heading, that's again, it's an exciting topic. Similar to supply chain. If people don't understand supply chain, it gets really dry. And
there was there was some fundamental concepts in the book. So there's the era of the R, which is like refurbishment, repair, remanufacture. Okay. And then there's the era of the D, which is like completely like melting down and pulling apart all the molecules and atoms that the book would describe it as into their raw components and replacing the mining of those ores and feeding that back into production, and how different they are. Like, you know, the remanufacture of a product, the refurbishment of a product is way better for the environment than trying to pull everything apart, and the challenges that even now we have when something is made to pull all those atoms and molecules back out and feed it back into the factories as raw materials. It's quite a challenge, and in itself creates a carbon footprint, right?
Yes.
Just that concept is, you know, to put it in its raw components of what a circular supply chain looks like was fascinating for me. And it brought me back to when many years ago I had a company, and for 17 years we sold photocopiers and printers and multifunction units. And way back then, like 30 years ago, you know, the photocopier companies were doing this, you know, so it's not a new concept, you know. I mean, we had, obviously we had a dealership and we sold mostly Ricoh photocopiers, so we could sell new photocopiers, but then there was also the refurbished photocopiers, which is where you would take a trade-in and you would replace the consumables, make sure that it was working good, and then you would resell it, similar to like a used car in a used car sales lot. And then there was the remanufactured, where that trade-in would go back to the factory. It'd be completely pulled to pieces, right back to the frame, and rebuilt till it was at a new standard. So if the initial life was meant to be 5 years for that product, the remanufactured version would have the same warranties and expect to last the same 5 years. And I know in the book here it mentions Xerox as a leader in remanufacture of photocopiers and printing machines, which is great. But you know, there's that, and also just the concept of having hardware as a service. You know, photocopiers and printers have been having hardware as a service, where you buy the prints that it makes, not the actual printer itself, for decades. You know, and that's where sustainability and the circular economy comes in, is keeping the ownership with the manufacturer is quite important to close that loop.
Yes, totally agree. And I really like the way the book started as well, similar to what you're reflecting on your previous life in the professional Xerox copy machines. In Buddhism, happiness is defined as the sum of your belongings divided by sum of your wants. Decreasing your wants increases your happiness, which I loved it. And then also another one, I'm just quoting from the book while we are speaking. Aristotle stated that the real wealth lies in the use of goods, not ownership. Again, going back to what you're referring to, is you pay for the usage, not actually for the machine or the product itself. And we all know about SaaS, software as a service. Now the book also refers to PaaS, which is product as a service. So I think that's the shift towards that circular economy piece. So there is the age-old tradition of I own 5 cars, 10 buildings, and all these things, which is almost like a flipping this whole concept, and the way we look at things, the way we use things also is an evolution over time. And I do strongly believe in that, because that's how we're all going to be moving towards. But again, it's a journey, it's a transition, and every single person is involved in this. You, me, my kids, my wife, every single person. And quite often, sometimes it's funny when I talk to people, circular economy, and we need to really look after the climate and everything. And there's like, they think it's all the big companies and the government's job. And I was like, wow, okay. And then sometimes I talk to people, the weather is shit, that it's terrible, it's hot, or it's too rainy, or it's blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, maybe we should all think through, maybe you shouldn't be using those single-use plastic, or maybe you should not be throwing that bottle of water just on the street. And it's very hard for people to connect that micro activity into this macro problem. And that's where I feel the user, and you and me, the you is quite big in this circular economy. So
I think you could read this book and you could be overwhelmed with the changes that need to happen. And you could read this book and have the idea that this is too big for me. Recycling is not going to make any difference. And I don't know. Do you think to a certain extent that the big changes that's needed has to come from government, and that's why we're seeing Europe taking a lead in it, because they always traditionally have been a little bit more socialist, a little bit more left-leaning, dare I say, than the rest of the world, like, well, let's say the Western world?
I think it will be a combination. Yes, definitely there is going to be a role in that piece as well. As we all know, it will be very slow if we just rely on governments and the big corporations to make the move. But definitely there's a lot of, we are in a very consumer society where we do consume a lot.
Yep.
And if we reverse that supply, if we reverse the demand, supply will slow down. And again, it's a collective efforts of so many individuals needs to happen. But I am optimistic and I'm positive because there's a lot of younger generation. They actually do a lot of things in a very unique way, the way we compared to some of the people are grown up with and all that stuff. So it's actually quite a lot of change happening in all different directions. And because I'm spending a lot of time in this space, and I'm seeing so many amazing initiatives within Australia as well. I'm working with someone in the carpet industry. There's a furniture association working on it. There's a mattress association working on a landfill that's like a massive one. Like that's like apparently it's like in 22,000 ton of landfill or something. Yes, it will take a lot of time if we rely on government because the current linear industry. Sorry, just before that.
Go ahead.
The current linear industrial economy, the way it works is we allow these companies to pollute, and we reward them for reducing the pollution. So we almost think about why don't we reduce the waste of the source? But again, it doesn't work overnight because there's certain economic factors that are dependent on that piece. So it's a journey over time. So yeah. Anyways,
it's a fight against the economics, in my opinion. A quote from the book, mate, is science may be there, but practical solutions need to be in place, or the science will be ignored, right?
Yeah.
And he was referring to the CFCs that we used to have, and it was like, it was causing holes in the ozone layer. We used to have this gas in spray cans. We used to have it in refrigerators. And it was all, even though we knew the damage was being caused, it was completely ignored until science had a replacement. There was a practical way that we could move forward. Then everyone got on board, and now we have solved that particular issue. But there has to be something practical, and the linear economy is just so simple. You dig stuff up out of the ground, you make something out of it, you sell it with a sales force, and we want to tout how great that product is, but in actual fact, the shorter the product lifespan is, the quicker the consumer is going to go back and buy another one, and we repeat the process, throwing out the old one. And it's just so simple. It's like, market driven. But the circular economy, of course, is a little bit more complicated. And if we're going to be feeding back some of that used equipment, and have an alternative source for raw materials, deriving them from products that have expired and then been melted down, and the components removed from them and fed back into the production. Then it sort of makes things a little bit more complicated. And I mean, after reading this book, I'm noticing everything now about sustainability. And like yesterday, our dryer stopped working, right? Our clothes dryer. Now I went to get the receipt, and oh wow, this dryer is 7 years old, has served our family of 6 for 7 years, and cost a whole of $469 7 years ago. Now it broke two little plastic things that could be replaced. So economically, I'm better to replace it. The laundry is mounting up, right? So the laundry is getting higher and higher, and nowhere to dry it, causing some problems in the family. So the easy thing to do is just to replace it, right? Instead of going back, getting a technician out there, he may be 2 or 3 days away. They may then need to order a part, and so the system is broken down. But this book talks about replacing that linear economy with
Yep.
manpower, right?
Yep.
And that this is some of the fundamental changes that are needed in the way we go through life day to day, is that there has to be accessibility of the ability to repair these devices, you know, so that instead
Yep.
of a 7-year life cycle, I could get 14 years out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's obviously going to be an amazing improvement and help the planet.
Yes.
But on pure economic terms, I'm better just replacing it. And
yes,
while that is the case, a lot of people are going to turn a blind eye to recycling, refurbishing, and repairing items, you know, because it's just harder.
Yeah.
What do you think? What should I have done? Should I have just let the washing mount up, mate? I could have marital problems because of this, you know?
Yes. I could go a little bit old school here too. It's the washing wasn't always been the laundry only is the only solution there. So you can hand wash stuff as well for a couple of days. So that's where the convenience. Okay. That's
4
where the
kids, buddy. 4 kids.
I understand.
Hard wash. You can come and help me do the hand washing, because I know my wife will refuse to do it.
I know. Climate and the it comes with convenience, and again, my grandmother had 11 kids, and my mother, obviously, we had 3. I got 2 siblings, and I've seen it all. I've seen the hand wash, I've seen the laundry, and it is possible. But the convenience of how much we use to things, and the convenience is costing the climate. So, and it's almost in a mindset that we think there is no other alternative at all. But if you just open up, there are. But again, and even the example you quoted before, we're not there yet. We're getting there, and we will be working through that process where there's going to be more decentralized economic workshops. There will be a lot of. There is a Griffith University working on repair and repair framework, where they're actually educating a lot of tradies in that space, where white good appliances get qualified tradies locally. So you actually got more accessibility for those as well. And without talking too much into my own product, I'm actually incorporating easy to repair access into the Your Product Passport, which is the app I'm working on, which you know that about as well. Yeah. So, and again, having those easy, accessible way for consumers to realize this is what you do, right? And the other side, the flip side of what you just said is, 3 days of clothes not washing and blah, blah, blah happens in the family as well. Yes, that is very real. Versus the damage or the carbon footprint you're going to be doing, the damage you are going to be doing with the planet of replacing it and not having the patience for 3 days to replace it. That is irreplaceable. There's no planet B. So the cost of the convenience of 3 days versus not actually having a planet for the kids in the future, we probably think that as well more. So
I'm hearing you, and it did touch on that in the book, that we're really going back 150 years when we didn't have products at our beck and call. And particularly in Australia, like 150 years ago, you know, there wasn't a lot of infrastructure here, and you had to make do, right? And our grandparents and great-grandparents got very good at making things last a very long while, right? And so it's that mindset that we need to get back to. But I don't know, are the global citizens, are they willing to even go a step towards that? I'm not sure.
If there is incentives and if people start to see what actually it's impacting, there will be. But so let's just go with plastic recycling. Have you ever deposited your containers or anything so far into the
not
plastic?
In the machines. I know
not
the
in the
ones you
machine.
mean. No.
I haven't done it either. I got a bag. I'm still collecting them. But what do you say if I tell you New South Wales collected 10 billion containers since they launched this activity? Did anyone imagine that? Will this be successful? Of course, South Australia was a pioneer. They started this probably quite a few years ago. But even when New South Wales started this whole program, they collected 10 billion containers in 5 years. And that's $1 billion people earn. Like, imagine, like, when we talk about small things and the domino effect of actually making, like, imagine if we talk about you're going to be earning $1 billion by 10 cents at a time. It's mind-boggling for people to think, but that's how things happen. Like every small step matters. I believe it's 4 weeks for a plastic bottle to go into that container deposit and be back on the shelf again, because it's all local now.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. The can is 6 weeks. And I think the bottle, they don't have a clear lifetime because I think that goes overseas or something. But previously, imagine the landfill. So there's going to be a lot of these initiatives coming through. But yeah, like that's a good example saying that 10 billion. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll pick up the topic of the European taking Apple to court about their lightning cables. Because I think this is a great topic to talk about, because it just shows both sides of the argument so clearly.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of what happened in Europe. So let's call this a debate, and you tell me why that was a great idea, and I'll give the alternative. I personally, by the way, I agree that there should just be one cable, and it's going to reduce a lot of landfill and a lot of waste. I agree, but for the sake of this debate, I'll debate the alternative. So tell me, Rakesh Bandipelli, why should there be only one cable? Why should Apple phones be forced to put USB-C connectors on their phones?
Yeah. So I'll give 2 examples here, but we can focus on Apple as well.
Yep.
The current economy we are now is in an extraction mode, where all we wanted to do is extract without actually realizing the larger impact, which is a capitalist mindset. I own this. I don't want to share this to anyone, and that's my patent. But they're missing out on the bigger piece, which is profit over purpose of human being planet. So Apple can go like this, no problem. But you actually don't have a planet where people are actually going to afford buying your phones eventually if you fight against this, right? So that's okay. So that's, and again, and they did this, like I think they tried their best for almost 10 years. And eventually they had to go with USB-C, and starting with 33, I believe, charges in 2007, cut down to 3 ABC, and then eventually Apple had to get to C, which I think Apple was in A, Apple USB-A. And then they released a nice marketing video, Mother Earth, which probably had more likes and attention from audiences. Apple's great, they're doing everything they should, and then no one realized that they're actually against the universal charger. And a great example there is Volvo cars. They never patented the seatbelt because they thought about the bigger purpose there, and they gave away the patent for seatbelt technology, which is still currently used in every single car and in aeroplanes as well. So two
Volvo's a European company and Apple is an American company. There you go.
There you go. So that's a good debate then. Yeah, over to you.
So the other argument is that the market should decide, right? So this is the fundamental belief of capitalism and a lot of people around the world, is that the market should decide. And if the market believes that it's not sustainable, that Apple have lightning connectors and they should move to USB-C, then they will simply buy Android products and punish Apple in sales. Apple obviously doesn't think that was happening because they retained the lightning connector, in fact, fought for it to be retained. The other argument also is that it would stifle competition. So so lightning, the lightning connector was was quite groundbreaking, because it didn't matter which way you put the cable, right? You could put it wasn't just an upside and a downside. You could just plug it in and it made the whole thing more efficient. And then USB-C come along, and what do you know? It's also universal, that you can put it in either way. So it could be said that Apple had the innovation. The makers of USB-C copied that that design, or at least that benefit. I won't say the design, but copied that benefit. That would never have been there if it wasn't for the lightning connector, showing that everyone actually just wanted a plug that you could plug in any way. And so therefore, if governments do this, then it could stifle innovation because what's the point if you're just going to be legislated, out of a market if you don't follow suit with the government. So I'm just saying it's not an easy. It's just not a slam dunk. Of course there should only be one cable. It's just not that simple, and this is why I think governments. It's going to be so hard for governments, particularly out of Europe. I mean, I could never imagine that court case happening in the United States. I could just never imagine. Europe, yes, but I couldn't imagine it in a lot of other countries. Having said that, now it's done. The world is better off not having lightning connectors and only having one universal charging system for phones.
Yeah. No, I do agree, but there's definitely innovation in a lot of other pieces of the business as well. And if you're joining hands just at the cable level, as an example, of course, Apple has a lot of edge technology in a lot of other pieces as well. So I guess, there is the CSR of a business, so your social responsibility as being part of a business. And I believe Apple only has 20% market share globally, even though you see a lot of phones here, but globally they're not the only, they're not major player. Yeah. And they actually had an option too. They could exit Europe, not selling the phones, and then they still have a lightning cable A. They didn't have to go to C. If they really were then people would have started importing them from overseas. If they really had the demand, but they changed. So it's for the better reason. There's a bigger purpose than fighting against each phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. I don't know. It's just something that reading this book. Yeah. There's the whole system needs to be turned on its head, but I don't want to put that out there and think that it's all too hard and we shouldn't do it. It's sort of like. It's like a war footing, like when a war is declared, all the rules change, all the laws change, right?
Yeah.
And people do without. There's lots of disruption. People lose their jobs. People are going off to fight. There's coupons. There's food shortages, fuel shortages. All these things happen. It's almost like we need to be there, but we don't have the urgency to do it yet. I mean, one day there will be urgency. Yeah. But at the moment we don't have that urgency to make all those very big changes that need to happen in legislation to force us to move in the right direction. But what do you think?
I feel the opposite about the time perspective. We actually don't have a lot of time, and I think
it's urgent now.
It's critical. And when was the big bushfire that happened in Australia? Was it 2011 or was it just? I think it was, somewhere around that. I think the reason I'm mentioning that is the Australian GDP was at a biggest number ever. So that's like a bigger growth Australia ever seen. And unfortunately, we're counting the wrong numbers. So if we believe that year was the great economic year for the Australia, it wasn't really, because people suffered. And there's a lot of obviously homelessness and a lot happened, but from an economic perspective, it's the best year apparently Australia ever had from a GDP perspective. So again, back to your point, it's flipping the whole system, and there's a lot that needs to go into it. But again, I see through the details and I can see through what all needs to be changed. But again, it doesn't put me down, or it doesn't actually bring my energy down thinking, oh my God, this is too much. I really enjoy this space because this problem is much bigger than me. It's challenging. It's a lot of arguments. There's a lot of discussions needs to happen. And that's probably the most exciting bit for me. It's not straightforward, and I like the challenge.
Yeah. I know you like a challenge, man. And you put your money where your mouth is too with developing YPP, your product passport. So tell us a little bit about YPP and how and where it fits into a circular economy, man.
I guess we're starting with, exactly to your point, your clothes washing machine or the dryer. One of them has broken down.
Dryer.
The dryer. So YPP is a digital passport for the end consumers, connecting them back to the manufacturer, but also the main ecosystem of what needs to happen over time for that to expand the life cycle of that product. So essentially, the longer it actually is in the economy, it's circular economy, because with the product life expansion, And the app sort of facilitates the process, keeping the consumer in mind, but also connecting them to the manufacturer. And I want to be that facilitator, helping as many companies as possible doing the right thing, help them through the journey, and ensure that the end consumers also equally benefited from this and connect the dots back. And it's a big journey. And again, like I said, 10 billions of bottles got collected, not overnight. It took time, but one bottle at a time. So I'm starting with the base feature of warranties and all the product traceability as a starting point, and then slowly connect the link backwards, which should enable the reverse logistics of not recycling anymore, but repurposing. Because current recycling infrastructure can't handle the waste. So I think we need to working towards more of the era of R, which is obviously in the book, the reusing, the repurposing, the remodeling, the refurbishing, and so forth. So that's where my Your Product Passport comes in place. And like I said, it's a big problem to solve, and I want to be part of that solution, along with a lot of other solutions to come hand in hand as well. It's just not me fixing this problem. There's a lot of people needs to be active. There's a lot of actors in this ecosystem that needs to come together.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I love the product. I've obviously seen it. I've used it, and it helps the consumer on one side, just keeping track of all their receipts, right? Because it took a long while to find my 7-year-old receipt for the dryer. Let me tell you, I didn't have YPP back then, so it wasn't in YPP. But it helps the consumer with that. You got all your products, you know, how much warranty it's got, when you purchased it, all the details are there. But it's also linking you back to the manufacturer as well, so that the manufacturer understands where you're at in your product life cycle. So yeah, I love it, and it's facilitating that circular economy, man, which is hats off to you. It's a great product.
Thank you. And it's no TikTok or it's no Instagram. There is no fancy stuff happening, but I want to be a very utility-based app and be for the consumers and for the manufacturers and for the planet when they need me. And that's what the app's going to do. So yeah, thank you, Stephen. Glad you enjoyed it. So
yeah, no, amazing product. But a bit disappointed, man, because you didn't ask me what happened to my dryer. I didn't finish my story. I was just waiting for you to ask.
I've taken, especially after reading the book, and I'm thinking you did the right thing by working through the process of getting it fixed. Don't tell me anything else now. I don't want to listen. So
I'm going to tell you the truth, buddy. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Tell me.
I got my Araldite glue out, and I attempted a repair of these plastic components. The repair lasted exactly 5.5 hours before it broke again.
It worked. So it worked for a few hours. So hats off to you for putting that effort.
That's three loads of washing went through before it broke. So I tried.
It worked. Yeah, you expanded it. Yeah, you extended the lifespan. That's great.
Officially, I did. Yeah. So it's sort of a circular economy in a very small scale. But then what I did is I called, and this is a free plug for the Winning Group. I called the Winning Group and their business appliances online. Okay. So amazing service where they will give you next day delivery. All right. So your washing isn't all stacked up. They will install the new appliance and take away the old appliance for recycling. Okay. Amazing. So a repair would have been better if we could have gone those, probably 2 weeks without a dryer. But as a second best, I think, the appliances online, amazing service, and they do the right thing. They'll recycle that all that old hardware, and it's just easy, just a phone call. They swap it around. You don't have to do anything. That's what happened.
Yes. No, they got some really good sustainability planning around it, and I've heard a lot of stories as well. And I know the sustainability manager there at Winning Appliances. They've got some really keen focus, which is a good thing. So
great. All right. I think that brings us to an end, man. So thanks for the chat. It wasn't just a whitewash or a greenwash. It wasn't just a greenwash. I challenged you a little bit, but I think the arguments stack up. We've got to do something. It's going to take some big changes, but we just got to man up and do it. I think
That's it. Yeah. And it will happen. So yeah.
from the little things to the big things. I went for a walk today with a coffee, and up until today, I would get a disposable cup and I would put it under the coffee machine and go for a walk with my disposable cup and throw it out on the way, right?
Yeah.
Not today, mate. Not
there you
on
go. So
the day
one at
we're
a
doing
time.
this vlog. I took a mug and just brought it back.
There you go. So one step at a time.
Yeah, I'm getting there, man.
All right, great.
Thanks for your time, buddy. I appreciate it, as always.